Now we're going to style this document. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to go up here to these two lines. We actually want these two lines to cross over this gutter here in the middle and extend all the way across the page. And it used to be we would have to do that by creating a text box that went all the way across this page, and then have a separate text box down below for the columns. But that has changed over the years. And so what we can do here with that type is go to paragraph and go to the options for the paragraph. I'm going to need to pull this over. The options for the paragraph. And there is an option here called span columns. And I can click on span columns. It's set currently to single column, which is the default, but I can go to span columns like that. Click on preview, and you can see, you can't see yet, but it's caused this type to drop down. And then I may also want to add some space down below this header. I'm going to try 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to click OK. And now I can go to these two items and I can tell them to center like that. And so I now have a header across the top. Okay, next. Next, I'm going to make this headline bigger. And I ought to pick a font for it. So let me see. I'll try that. Okay. And then I'm going to go to this piece. So we need to add some styles. There's actually no reason to style this header, but I'm going to do a style just for the fun of it. Go to my paragraph styles, go to my options. I guess this one's going to have to move over too. Just so that these are all visible. So I've already styled this, and so it's actually really easy to create a style once something has been already styled. I simply go to the top right for paragraph styles, and I go new paragraph style. It gives me this dialog box. I'm going to call this headline. Based on no paragraph style, next style is same style. If I go to basic character formats, I see that this is Beavis Nui. It's 37 points. The leading set. I'm going to change the kerning to optical. And if I go down to character color, I can set this to blue. If I go to indents and spacing, I see the alignment's already set to center, and all that stuff is set up, and I click OK, and this is now styled. Okay. Next, I have my coffee and pastries fresh daily. I'm going to keep that in Minion Pro, regular. Actually, I'm going to make it italic, and I'm going to make it a little bigger. And I think I'm going to make it a little deeper. It looks like that. And I'm going to take and make a style for that. Paragraph styles, new paragraph style. And I'll call this subhead. And I'm going to just leave that the color that it is and click OK. And that's styled as subhead. And what I might also want to do is I can click and drag and move subhead down below headline so that it's in order of usage. Next, we have two sections. And I'm going to do these. Let's see what's available. I'm not quite sure why I'm picking this, but I am. And I'm going to go to my color swatches, set it to red. And then I'm going to go to my paragraph function, go to the options, and we have something called paragraph rules. We also have something called paragraph borders and shading. Let's go to paragraph borders and shading, actually. So I'm going to put a border. Turn on preview because that's always very useful. And then there are corners, and there are offsets. And what I'm looking for, and I'm probably never going to find, let's try the offsets. Okay. So I'm not happy with this. Okay. Under normal circumstances, I would think that that is not how this would work. But I'm going to click OK. And then actually what I need to do is I need to inset tools, 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 tools. I'm going to go back because it's not working the way I think it should. Borders and shading, I'm going to turn that off. There's something that I'm missing here. I apologize, but I'm going to turn off that border because I don't like that. That does not really work the way I want it to. Shading. See, I wouldn't agree with how that's being done. So I'm not going to use that. Turn that off, click OK. I'm going to just use a simple border treatment. So I'm going to go to paragraph. I'm going to go to paragraph rules. I'm going to have a rule above. And I'm going to offset it. And then I'm going to have a rule below. Rule below, rule on, offset. Okay. I need to do another couple of things here. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go to character style. I actually want this to line up with the top of the text, and this is going to end up being difficult. I need to go to my character palette. I'm going to baseline shift. That's what I thought. I may not be able to do everything that I want to here. I'm trying to get fancy and it's just not working. So what I'm going to do is that. And then we will just see what happens. I may have to do some other things. Okay, so anyway, so I've created this. I'm now going to go to my paragraph styles. I'm going to click on new paragraph style, and I'm going to call this section. And click OK. And now there's another one down here for pastries. And I'm going to click on section, and you see that automatically I get that section as well. And what I might want to do, double click on it, indents and spacing, space before. In case there's instances that I want to do that. Click OK. And that's the subheads. Next, we have our body text. And for the moment, I'm just going to create a new format. new paragraph style called body or description. We'll just call it description. Click OK. And I'm going to select all this type and put it in the style description. And then what I'm going to do is double click on description, indents and spacing. And I want to separate these. So I'm going to add a space after. And you see how that it just separated everything out. And I actually have enough space that I can separate it out a little bit more, like that. Click OK. Next, I have my items. And I'm going to use Menu Pro Bold. And I'm going to move it up just 1 point. And actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and I'm going to make this 15 point. Because I like to have control over my leading and not have it be auto all the time. And you'll notice that there's now a plus sign over here next to the description, which means that this leading is different from how it's described, how it's set up. So I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to go to redefine style. And now all of them are now at 15. Including this, which is now also at 15. Next, I'm going to take this and I want to create tab leaders. To do that, I'm going to go to type and I'm going to go to tabs right here. And I get this and I want to line it up with my column, and you'll see that there's an indicator here and there's an indicator here for the right-hand side of the column. And what I want to do is I want to add a right justified tab. So I'm going to take this tab and pull it down onto my, well, used to be that that worked. I'm going to just click here somewhere. And then I'm going to click here to change it to a left justified tab or a right justified tab. And then I'm going to pull this over until it's at the end of the column. And you'll see now that my number is over here. And then there's something called leader right here. And I'm going to type in a space, or rather a period, and I can type in another period. And if you look now, I have those periods all set up. So that's a tab leader. And instead of having to type a bunch of periods, I just have to type in, I just have to create this tab. Now, what I want to do is I want to take that and I'm going to make a paragraph style. You'll see how the description doesn't match anymore. There's a plus sign, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a new paragraph style based on description, meaning if I make changes to description, it may affect the, how this looks, particularly if I change the font. And then I'm going to also go to indents and spacing, and I'm going to remove, I think I'll make that like 3 point. Or 2 point. And click OK. Paragraph style is item. I could even go change the color to that. Click OK. And now I have a, see, I have a section, which I'll pull there. I have item there and description there. I can now go through and click description, item, 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 like that. And they all instantaneously have leader dots and are spaced correctly. And they're the correct font. Item. Okay. And I can close this. And I can go to preview. And it looks like that. This is not the wildest, craziest design in the known world. But I was mostly wanting to show you how the controls worked. I can also do, I'm not crazy about the macrons only having one line of text at the beginning. I can double click on item and go to, there's something called keep options right there. And I can tell it to, let's see, keep with next 2 lines. And so if there's not at least 2 lines of the description, then it will kick it up. Click OK. Another way to do that, well, it'll stay with the next 2 lines, and then I can also double click the description and keep options and tell it to keep lines together, all lines in the paragraph. Click OK. And that didn't change anything here, but that would guarantee that if, for instance, this text box gets a little smaller, the items automatically would never get broken up. Okay. And we've been pretty lucky here in that all of our items don't have any widows at the end of lines. There's at least 2 words on the end of the line, so those are good. That's 12 points. So there's actually an argument that this is a little bit big. And I can go to the description and make this 11 point. And you notice that it all just changed automatically. And I would probably make this 14. Click OK. I would probably also go to this item. Okay, and that also changed to 14. And my question is there any way to move this? Huh. I had space before, and yet the other line also moves at the same amount. So very odd. Okay, so I don't really agree with why that's the way that's happening, but it does not seem to be that I have any control over that. So, one other thing is I think that that's a little bit, maybe it's not a bit narrow. But I can go to my object, text frame options, and my gutter, and I can make it a little bit wider. And you'll notice that when I do that, it causes a little chaos. I would need to go back here to my tab, type tabs, line that up, bring that in, and then I would need to go and redefine style, and then they all come back up. So generally, the way I would build this is I wouldn't try to build this all in one text box. This is more a practice for you to, so that you know that it's possible to do something like this. In my generally, when I would design this, I would have a box for the rule, and then I'd have a box for the headline and a box for both of these columns, exactly because I'm running into this problem here where I'm not really happy with the way those are lining up. And then I could actually take and grab the top of that text box and move it down and line it up the way that I wanted to. But I don't really have any control over that here. And the other final thing is that all of this, let's see, section. I actually just want to reset that. Because if I want more space up there, I'd actually go to here. Go to paragraph, span columns, space after span, click OK. That needs to get redone. Redefine style. redefine style. Section. See, I would make that 14. .5 point. Nope. Space after 14 point. If everything's on 14, it mostly lines up. Click OK. Here it would actually be useful to go to picas. P2. Redefine style. That's 14 point. Redefine style. Now everything lines up across the columns because everything is set to 14. So the leading's set to 14, and then there's an extra 14 points of space here. There's an extra 14 points of space there. So everything, and then double check space before set to 0, or P14. So if you can keep everything on the same leading and work with spaces that match, then you'll notice that these lines can actually line up across the columns, which is a nice way of handling it. The kind of games that you play when you've had a bunch of years of experience and so on. The one other thing I wanted to mention is, so there's also something called character styles, which can only affect a specific, well, you could, it works on, say, a single character, for instance, or a single word. Like, for instance, if I want the French words to be italicized, I could take and make that italic. And I can go to character styles and new character style and call it italic or body italic. Description italic, click OK. So I can now set that. There is There's one other thing. Notice I've got at least one hyphen here, and I've got some other hyphens. Excuse me while I go back, double click my description, go to hyphenation, turn off hyphenation, and now there's no hyphenation in any of my lines. Because you have this extra spacing here, I can't just hit return because that creates a problem. But there is something called a soft return or shift return. And I hold the shift and I hit return, and then I can re-break these lines so that I'm happier with them. Like shift return, shift return, Command Z. I'm going to go back and get that and as well. That's not great. Huh. Okay. So that all should just read a little bit better that way, adding all those shift returns. If you go to type, if we go back to normal, you can see that's a shift return or a soft return indicator, which is different from the paragraph symbol. Description italic. Description italic. So much quicker than going up there and dragging down and figuring out and so on. And I'm just being silly there. All right. Then finally, preview. I'm looking at this and thinking that these dots are a little bit larger than I want. So I could go up here and I can reduce the point size. And then I can go new character style, leader dots. Apply style to selection, click OK. So now they're that size. And I can select this tab and downsize the leader dots so that they're a little bit more elegant. And if I wanted to, I actually have enough space. I can actually put my text tool here, go to type, go to insert break character, and tell it add a column break. And that actually forces that up there. And then I would take this item and go to description, and that'll disappear. And then I have space down here for an illustration if I want. And that would be all the different things that one can do. Again, I set up the headline to span the columns. I added paragraph rules around these headers. And I created a style out of that. I created a style out of this. I created a style out of this. I created a style out of these so that I could reuse it. I have a style here that not only changes the weight and changes the size slightly, but it also adds these tabbed leader dots. And then I repeated using that over and over. The body copy has a style. Everything is description. Okay. And so if I wanted to go back and change this font, say I wanted to change it to Baskerville. You'll notice that it just all changed completely. Is this Baskerville? Click OK. That did not change because it wasn't based on this. You'll notice that when you change it, there's some issues, or at least one issue, and I'll need to delete that soft return to make that work. And to change this, I would need to go to my subhead. Well, I could even take this, change that to description. No, I'm not going to do that. Won't do it that way. I'll just go and make this Baskerville. Baskerville, italic. And again, that doesn't match. And so I can go up to here and go to redefine style. And now it does. And so fairly quickly, I was able to completely reformat this into another font in case I needed to. And that's why we love styles. It makes things easy to change. Okay. And so that's how to style this menu. A little bit involved, but ultimately worth it because it teaches you a lot of functions that you'll end up using over the years.